So this video might be a bit controversial. I'm sure many of you won't agree with me, but I don't think that Killjoy is that good on Haven anymore. Now, before we get into the reasons why I think Killjoy is not as good on that map, first we need to understand what makes Killjoy good in the first place. First, let's start with the defensive side, where I think it's quite obvious why Killjoy is good on the defensive side. She gives you quite a lot of information, and she is good at stopping the attackers from getting into a space that they want to get into. Arguably two of the most important things to do on the defensive side, so yeah, obviously Killjoy is going to be good on pretty much most defensive sides. But on attack, maybe it's a little more difficult to understand why Killjoy is good, but she is very good, and it all has to do with defaulting. Because here's an example from DRX versus Leviathan back last year at Masters Copenhagen, and they're going to be in a 3-1-1 default here on Haven. So we've got the three players here with the Breach, Fade, and the Raze going towards A. We've got our Chamber here just watching towards mid, and you got your Omen here just watching towards C. And this is how they're going to default. And generally, the goal of the players who are on their own is just to, sit back like they're kind of doing here, not get too aggressive, maybe take a little bit of space if they feel like it's there. But in general, they're going to be, watching to see if there's any early aggression early on in the round, whilst the, people who are together, they're the ones who are going to be actively trying to take space. But if we take a look at a game from this year, Leviathan versus Crew in the Americas League, so the same team defaulting, now they're playing Killjoy, and we see how it's changed, because this time they're going to have a 4-player default towards A instead, and the Killjoy setup is going to do the rest for the rest of the map. And this is the advantage that Killjoy can give you on the attack side, that if you can get a turret like this that will watch both sides like this, and for instance an alarm bot down here, now we don't need an extra player watching towards C. Instead, we can have 4 players using their utility and coming towards A instead, and the Killjoy can just deal with the rest of the map. So essentially, we've gained an extra player. And what I like to say is that, Timmy the turret here, he's just going to watch these angles for you nice and early, see if anyone pushes, which is what a player on their own in default might just be doing anyway. So you essentially have a 6-man default. Now, the reason that Killjoy is struggling more and more on Haven is because of the way that the meta is going. Because more and more teams now are starting to play Viper on Haven, and really that is the source of the problems for Killjoy. And let's start with the attack side and look at some of the problems that Killjoy is now having with defaulting, as Furia found out.
Miedito, ¿eh? Vamos a ver qué pasa. La ronda número 7 y Aspas. Shh, nadie diga nada, por favor, silencio. Que Aspas se encuentra ya avanzando el sector de Miguel. Atención, porque ahora queda allí anclado completamente en la zona de ventana. A ver si de pronto alguien le da cara. Cuidado porque no puede avanzar de más. El bot está bastante cerca, le va a dar la información. Sin embargo, Aspas todavía no se decide. Lo tiene muy cerca. ¡Lo vio! Porque Khalid ya le dieron la información. Aspas que se abre. Ahí está la tormenta.
So what teams have started doing, and I've mentioned this multiple times, is that they've started doing this Viper wall just here, which means that the turret that you normally come and put out here that's been meta for a very long time doesn't see now if someone pushes down from mid, as we see from Aspas. Now, honestly, in this example, it honestly might not even have mattered because the turret kind of goes up a bit late, but you can see with the wall, it blocks off and allows you to push up here, and that causes the teams to do something else. And Furia did this as well, where teams know that this is a liability now with this wall coming up, so instead they put their alarm bot here in mid as well. But the thing is, this alarm bot has some problems, and the first one most notably is, now there's nothing watching C if you want 4 players defaulting towards A. So you have a couple options, right? You could say, okay, we'll send the Killjoy over towards C, but again, that has some limitations as well. Because of where this alarm bot cuts off just here, it means that your Killjoy can't ever really, explore this space or explore this area if they wanted to. And if the rest of your team, does start pushing up A and going there, there's a real big problem for your Killjoy if some of this utility gets broken. Because if the turret gets broken or if the alarm bot gets broken instead, now what does your Killjoy do? Because you still need to be a bit wary of anyone pushing down C, but now you need to be wary of people pushing down here as well, and you might get trapped. And so you might determine, okay, that's not a good option. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to move another player over towards C instead, like we did in the good old days, and have a classic 3-1-1 default instead. But what's the problem with that? Well, there isn't a problem necessarily with that, but then you just aren't getting the main advantage of Killjoy on attack. At that point, there might be other agents who can do a similar sort of thing, but just do it more efficiently or give you benefits in other areas rather than Killjoy. What we've basically done is just taken Killjoy's main benefit on attack and removed it. Now, in terms of the defense side, it's a lot less direct of how Viper counters Killjoy, but we need to go into a bit of a history lesson of how to play Haven to understand why it's a problem for Killjoy. So here's a round from Fnatic versus Navi all the way back at lock-in. Both teams are playing without a Viper, kind of the old meta stuff. And here we have Navi on the defensive side and CNED has an op. And where he's going to be on the map is over towards A. And this is the quintessential way of defending this map, or at least it used to be. Because you used to get, ideally a jet, chamber, whatever, someone with an op looking down towards a lobby here. It could be from long, it could be from short. Either way, they were going to be with an op looking towards lobby. And the idea is, hey, if they aren't in lobby, then they can't be past A. And that means we can have 4 other players for the rest of the map. They can be towards B and C instead. So we've got 4 players for the other 2 sites. And then we, have time to rotate from when this op will see someone in lobby. But Viper doesn't allow you to do that, and we'll see that in the game where Fnatic played against Loud at Champions, where Loud are playing the Viper instead. You can see Sadak on it here, and of course they're doing the Viper wall that everyone does, which is this one just here. And let's just take a look at the problems that this causes, because you're going to see early on in this round that, again, Durka wants to get on that angle towards short. He wants to get there, but he gets Viper mollied off, right? And so now I want you to take a look at what happens to these players on A, where, Leo is gonna, see that, oh, there isn't too much going on early just there. You actually get this harbor wall to B, and Leo thinks maybe I should rotate across. But then, as it doesn't become apparent that they're coming to the site, he realizes he has to stay, right? And this is the thing with the Viper wall, that instead of having, one player looking down towards lobby and, everyone else rotates away, that's not the case. This Viper wall forces you to have 2 players here towards A, which obviously opens up the rest of the map as well. Now, obviously, in this example, they have Althea pushed up here towards C, so maybe they feel a bit more confident in having 2 players towards A, but still, you can see the problems that it causes, because in reality, at this point, Loud could be going anywhere, right? Fnatic don't know if they're coming towards Garage, they don't know if they're coming towards B, they could even be on their way back to C and about to, turn into Althea as well, or they could be coming back towards A, and Fnatic don't know, and they have to keep these 2 players here. And that is not a situation you want to end up in, where you have to have 2 players on A at all times, because it's just not very efficient for defending the rest of the map. And so what some teams have started to do is actually move Killjoy over towards A. The problem is, some of those Killjoy setups simply don't work.
Parece que es el sector de A. Quieren repetirlo de la primera ronda, que es venir a correr un poquito. A ver si de pronto le ponen aquí el freno de mano. Miosera nuevamente cargando hacia adelante. Sin embargo, parece que no encuentra absolutamente nadie. Cuidado con Tex, que quiere abrirse en contra de Conan, que aprovecha también la cortina tóxica también para poder buscar el espacio. Le va a ver el le veía el
So here we see Leviathan and Tex try and go for this little trap play setup, where what they're going to try and do here is Killjoy turret over here. It's going to spot anyone in towards short. We're then going to Omen Flash, and Tex is going to push up and, hope to get a kill here from this little angle in there. The problem is, as we see, is that the Killjoy turret doesn't spot Conan, because he just uses his wall to walk past where that Killjoy turret sees, and so, Tex thinks he's all well set up here, and instead, it's the freest kill of their life, and it's a free A site. But other teams tried this kind of stuff as well. This is Fnatic versus DRX at Champions again, and again, Fnatic, almost every round on defensive side, they did a Killjoy setup on A. It was looking something like this, right? And again, you're going to see that in this round, Zest, who's playing Viper here, just walks all the way down and destroys this Killjoy turret instantly, right? And now let's talk about these kind of setups, though, because in my opinion, they aren't that good, right? Here we go. We got Zest destroying the Killjoy turret just there. And so these kind of setups that Fnatic were doing here on A, and to be fair, they did this against DRX, but not against Loud, so I'm going to guess that this was, more of an anti-DRX thing. But still, this kind of Killjoy setup isn't that good, because where this turret and alarm bot are placed, they aren't giving us great information, right? This turret is only giving you information of who's on short, and as you just saw, it can be destroyed pretty easily by this Viper, and was done quite a few times in this game. And this alarm bot here is giving us information if someone is down long, but it's too late, right? This is too late for information of when they're down long, because if they're at this point, they're probably going to get onto the site, right? And the other thing that Killjoy is really good at is the stopping power, right? Stopping that people entering onto the site. But these nanoswarms just on their own out here, are they actually going to stop anyone? Like, they might do a bit of chip damage, but are they actually going to stop them from getting in onto the site? I highly doubt it. And we saw teams like Furia and Leviathan both doing more Killjoy setups on A than you are definitely used to seeing, right? And the thing is, again, here's an example of a Furia setup where, okay, they've got the alarm bot on B this time, and they've just got the turret, very passively watching towards A with these 2, like, nanoswarms, one for a dash in here or whatever. But this isn't a good Killjoy setup. right? Okay, the alarm bot's fine on B, but this turret isn't really giving you any good information. Like, oh, they're on A? Okay, right? And these nanoswarms, are these doing anything more than just getting a tiny bit of chip damage and maybe delaying them ever so slightly? It's not much more than that if they did come towards this A site, and eventually your Killjoy with this kind of setup is probably either going to have this happen where someone else rotates, or eventually they're probably going to be forced to leave because, you know, this is a lot of pressure for one player to have to deal with on their own. This is, you know, if they did come towards A, you're probably in a lot of trouble. And really the point I'm trying to make here is that, do you know what this kind of Killjoy setup reminds me of? It reminds me of a Cypher kill trip setup, but just a really bad version of it. Because the way that that setup is often going to play out, it is going to look like I'm going to be passive, I'm going to be off the site, and Cypher has setups that are just like that, but instead of just doing a bit of chip damage with nanoswarms or whatever, you're more likely to actually get a kill from kill trips and things like that. So basically the point is here that the way that Killjoy is being used on the map right now, you could probably have other agents doing similar things, but either more efficiently or give you advantages in other ways. And there's even examples of Killjoy ults, like this one here in the game from Leviathan Furia, where this ult against the Viper wall as well isn't that great, right? This is a common ult you're going to see quite often in these games, but because of this Viper wall back here, and because, you know, this player could maybe be up on the platform or back and potentially have a route to escape as well, right? It makes it difficult. And, you know, in this instance, as you're going to see, this isn't like a perfect example of it because King's wall is going to go down, as you see there, as he gets back up the fuel for when they start to come into the round. But King, with his wall and with this Omen smoke in there as well, is going to cause enough delay to where the rest of his team can actually flood in and they manage to win this round, right? So he gets the first kill there, and now he potentially has a chance to escape with his wall, or at least he, you know, isolates Khalil from not being in that fight. You know, he manages to kill MW, and by that time, you know, the rest of his team is actually back onto the site, and they manage to, you know, destroy this hold. And so, basically, the point is that even the Killjoy lockdown in certain instances is also kind of being countered by some of the stuff that Viper can do. And so my overall point here is not that Killjoy is bad in any way, shape, or form. Really, this video only applies to the very, very highest levels of the game. In Ranked, don't worry about it. But what I think this is emblematic of somewhat is, remember when Chamber was meta? And the meta warped around Chamber, and the game kind of became find the Chamber, knock the Chamber off that angle, and then go from there, right? That's kind of what the game became. Well, right now, to me, Viper is the strongest agent in the game, and so, in my mind, the meta should be warping around what works versus Viper on certain maps, because she's the strongest agent. And so this, for me, is an instance where an agent who is good on the map in general maybe isn't that good right now, isn't giving us the benefits that we really want right now because of the way we're being forced to play it, because of Viper, because of the strongest agent, and so we need to warp our ideas around that.